Good morning, students.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yeah, so sorry again, there was a connection issue, so I was just trying to do it. All right, students. Yeah, so I expect that all students should attend the class. Only 28 attendees I can see. That's really bad. Because during your Viva, I realized, now by now many of you are already placed, right? So even if you are placed, you must attend the class, right? Because you don't have anything else to do now, right? And if you are not placed, then also you should attend the class. It is helping. Unless you have placement activity schedule, it's a different case, right? So this is really not good, students, that you have taken the subject just because if you took the subject thinking that you can easily bunk, that's not a nice thing. Okay, so I want students to attend the class. So some one of you should take the responsibility. Okay, that you tell your class that everyone has to attend. Only 30 attendees. It is less than half, right? So definitely, I will not wait for everybody to attend to start the classes, right? But from some responsible future directors, this is not expected. Hmm? All of you are going to join such high positions, right, in your industry, in your career. So it's like you have to take that responsibility. You make sure you attend classes unless until it is something which is really urgent. All right. So that saves your time. You must understand nobody has time to go through the recorded videos, right? And by now you would have realized that we must attend the classes because the discussions that we do during the class, that helps somewhere to attempt a new problem, right, students? So one of you can please tell to the whole class that I am not happy, students, seeing only 30, 31 students here. Okay, when it is exam time, all of you attend the exam, everything, right? So that means you are making your choices when to attend the class, when not to attend the class. It's not correct. Okay, at least you think this way, that since you are paying the whole fee, right? So you must attend all the classes. Okay, now I am motivating you from a different perspective. Probably your parents are also telling you like this. You are paying the fee, right? So you must attend the class. One or the other new thing you will definitely learn. That I can assure you. Hmm? All right. Okay, so we start the class. So we will discuss about basically the topological sort today. Okay, so for using topological sort, we are using DAGs. Okay, everybody knows what is a DAG, directed acyclic graph. You know the definition of DAG. Okay, so why do we use DAG? Why do we use DAGs? Is basic purpose. We are going to do. Sorry, students, there was a call. Supriya ma'am was calling, so I just cut that call. Okay, so basically we are using DAG to represent the dependency graph. Okay, directed acyclic graph. Now, what exactly we mean by dependency graph? You can consider that there are some events, okay, and one event depends on another event. Okay, so you have for example, you have event D that can happen only when event E is completed. Not only E, D can take place when C, E, and B have been completed. Then only D takes place. Okay, so this is how it works. B can be completed only when C is done, right? B can be completed in the sense B can proceed, B depends on C. Till C is not over, B cannot happen. Okay, similarly, event A can happen when B and H both have been done. Event F can happen when G is over. And event W is independent. It is not depending on anything. It can start at any time and it can finish at any time. Okay, so when I do this, I remember a example. Okay, because I am from the architecture background, students, computer architecture background. So in many of the examples, my examples will be associated with hardware side or architecture side. So one example I can give you, you have seen a instruction execution cycle. Remember, you have various phases: fetch, decode, execute, right? Fetch, decode, execute, then you access the memory, and finally, no, fetch, decode, execute, and then after executing the instruction, you write back to the memory, right? So then while doing pipelining, you have seen 5-stage pipelining, 8-stage pipelining, then you know that there is a data dependency, right? Sometimes you are not able to do decode. When you do it in pipeline, you are not able to decode because the register that you want to fetch, that has not been updated. You would have seen that, right? So these kind of you must be thinking, from where do I get the dependency? Dependency is there everywhere, right? Inside your computer architecture, inside your operating system. When you do compilers, when you start implementing compiler operating system, you have to take care of dependency. Very, very important, right? So for example, if B is instruction decode, right? Here in this example, if B is an instruction decode, and suppose it wants the data from register C and register D, for example. So B cannot, so let's say D is an instruction decode. D cannot happen till it gets data from C as well as from D, like that. And then another classic example that is given in the textbook. Okay, very, very nice example he has given. The author has given. I did not put that example here. Because I want you to go through and read it. The author has given very nice example. He says that when you are dressing up, right, there are few things that you need to do. Few clothes you have to wear. For example, you cannot wear shoes before wearing the socks, right? After you have worn the shoes, you will not wear socks. Like that, he has given a classic example. That's an interesting example. You can go through it and you can see it. It is in the book. Okay, so something similar to that, the example that he has given up for dressing up, I've just put it as events. Okay, CEDB. So to show that this is the dependency. So DAX can represent the dependency graph. Okay, so you will see that there is no cycle that is made. That will not happen. In dependency, generally cycle will not happen. In case a cycle will happen, we have to change, we have to convert that cycle by creating one more event probably. Okay, so that is, so where exactly do we use them? Okay, so fine, DAG is, DAG, then we know that DAG can represent the dependency graph. Then how exactly to use it? Okay, so we use it in topological sort. Okay, what is a topological sort? All of you must be knowing. Just to repeat, for example, we say that ABCD is in a topological sort, right? Because when you have the sequence of alphabets, A comes before B, B comes before C. Similarly, if you say numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, you can call them also as, they are actually normal sort also. You can also call them as topological sort. Okay, so what exactly a topological sort? We define it as, it is a linear ordering of all the vertices. Okay, we are talking about a graph first of all, right? Inside graph, we are learning this. So a linear ordering of all the vertices such that for all edges UV belongs to E. There is an edge UV, U appears before V in the ordering. That's how we want to sort. Okay, the topological sort means, there is already an ordering of vertices that is in the order of, that is in the topological order. Okay, so an ordering of the nodes that obeys the dependencies. Okay, here how are we making the ordering? We are not saying that if the nodes are A, B, C, D, A should always come before B. We are not saying like that. We are saying that based on the dependency, that the topological sort should take place. Okay, so an ordering of the nodes that obeys the dependencies. That is, an activity can't happen until its dependent activities have happened. Okay, so that's what we are saying, that if we want to do a execute phase, right? So before execute phase, decode phase should have happened. Before wearing shoes, I should have worn my socks, like that. Okay, so that is what, so we are here, we are saying that there is a dependency between the events, and the meaning of topological sort doesn't mean that, exactly in the English alphabets how they are coming. Topological sort means an event can take place only after it's, to the events it is dependent, they have all been completed, right? That is what we are meaning by topological sort. Okay, so we are directly coming to the algorithm of doing topological sort. Again, to revise, no need to get confused. what we are doing is so you can assume that you have a dependency graph. Okay, you can say, so this is a graph. Obviously, this is a graph. Only thing is we have made it as a square brackets rather than making circles. It's a graph. Another important point, it's a directed graph. Why it is a directed graph? Because the direction is telling me that which event depends on the another event. So D can happen only when C and B has happened. D can happen only when C, B and E has happened. That means D depends on C, B and E. G depends on H. So I have a directed graph. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to topological sort them. Means we want to make the list of activities in which order they should happen. Right. There is an order in which order these events will happen. Right. So for example, D can happen only when E, C, and B have happened. Okay, there is an interesting question here, okay, before going to the algorithm. Okay, so I am saying that D can happen only when E, C, and B have happened. But is there a restriction for C and E to happen? No, there is no restriction. E can happen independently, C can happen independently because E does not depend on anything. Similarly, C does not depend on anything. Similarly, if you see H also does not depend on anything. Similarly, W does not depend on anything. So if I ask you to find out at the first iteration, if I ask you to find out at the first iteration, which events I can start at first, right? So you will say that C, E, H, and W can be started at the first go. Now, that is what we mean by sorting them. Okay, I want to find out that which are the events that I can start at the first go, right? We are not assuming that we do not have processor or something. Assuming that we have enough processor, there is no other constraint. Okay, then I can actually start event C, E, H, and W at the first go. Right? For example, that is done. So after C is done, E is done, can I start D? No, I cannot start D. The next thing that I can start is after C is done, I can start B because B depends only on C. So next round, if you see, I can start B. Okay. And here, since H is done, I can start G. Since H is done, I can start G, but I cannot start A. Right? Just after C and H is done, I can start B, I can start G. I cannot start A because for A to start, I need B as well as H. Right? After E is done, I cannot start D because for D, I have to wait for C and also B to get over. Okay, so what exactly is the idea? The idea is I have been given a dependency graph. I want to tell that which will be the events. Okay, in which order these events can take place. That is the idea. That is the objective we want to do. So that is what we mean by topological sort. So an event is given, a dependency graph is given to me. That means a directed graph is given to us, and we want to find out what will be the order of events to take place. Some events we can say that these events can take at, let us say, first clock cycle, or these events can take at the same time. That is what we want to find out. Now, actually, I told you the algorithm. That is how it will work. Okay, but we are going to see two kind of algorithms here. Okay, and I want you to keep a pen and paper ready with you, students, because we will see, you know, which algorithm is better or which algorithm we are going to choose finally. Okay, so we will be discussing two algorithms under topological sort, which we name as topological sort 1. Again, it is from the book. The second algorithm will be topological sort 2. Okay, of course, it is applied with the graph G, and that is a directed graph. Okay, so this is a topological sort 1G we have written, sort 1. Simple algorithm if you see. Okay, so what we are doing, as I told you, we will find a node V with no incoming edge. Right? That's what we said, right? Find a node V with no incoming edge. So I told you, right? C, E, H, and W are those nodes which are having no edges. Okay, so we will say that these can be ordered first. You can remove them from the graph, right? So that is the first step. Delete V from G. So you remove all of them from the graph. Okay, and then you are going to add these nodes. We have just written V, thinking that it's only one node, but we are going to do this for all the nodes. Okay, one by one. So I have written here, find a node V. So we are actually finding only one node. As per the algorithm, we are finding only one node. right? All together we will not do. We will find a node. We will delete that node from G and we will add this node to linked list. We will say that you are added to the linked list. We can perform this event now itself. Okay. After that, what you do is you call this algorithm recursively. Okay. Topological sort 1G. We call this algorithm recursively. So idea is like this. You have the graph. You will first select, for example, see, you remove this node from this. It can be anything. You remove this node from the graph and you add this to linked list. Fine. Now, when you remove a node from the graph means when you remove a node, you will also remove the corresponding edges. Obviously, these edges will also be removed. They will be removed. Okay. Then what you will do every time you are doing the same thing, right? So as per the algorithm, what you are doing, again, you are calling topological sort 1G. Right? So you have selected a node, you did that. Then you will select, it doesn't matter, you will select E, remove it. You will select H, you will select W. Like that, you will select these 4 nodes and they are removed from the graph. So for your simplicity, you can see after you remove what is the shape of the graph. So when you remove this, you are left here only with B, A. When you remove E, only D is here. When you remove H, these edges will be removed. So the meaning is H has already happened. So for A and G, it will consider after H is done, right? So A can now happen. It is not depending on H because the event H has already taken place. Similarly for G, right? So you are going to remove that node means the corresponding edges will also be removed, right? That's the algorithm. Add V to the linked list. Simple. Topological sort 1G is done, right? So what exactly we are going to do here? So this is the graph. Find a node V with no incoming edge. Delete V from G. So for example, you have selected C, right? So this can be anything, okay? You find a node V with no incoming edge. You selected C and then you are going to delete V from G. So you deleted V from G means when you delete this C means these 2 will also be removed. Okay, and you are adding V to the linked list. So suppose you have made a linked list to say that what is the order, just to say that what is the order in which you are going to follow the event. So what you did was you added this C to the linked list. So it happened, it went here. Then you selected, again you are calling topological sort 1. So you selected, for example, it's anything, it doesn't matter. Now you select B, for example. Okay, so then next thing what you do is you delete B, it goes here, right? Then you keep on doing this. Then you select H, let us say, right? You delete H. So when you delete H, you also remove the nodes. Okay. Then like that, you keep on doing. So it is not, topological sort 1G, which node you select doesn't matter. You can select any node. You could have selected E as well, W as well. So keep on doing this. It will go like this. So it will follow the order of dependency graph. Right? So what next we will do? Okay, so this is what is the algorithm. Now we are interested in finding out the running time. Okay, we are interested in finding out the running time. Okay, so for each line we should see what is the running time to analyze it properly. So the first line, find a node V with no incoming edge. The complexity is going to be, there are 4 lines in the algorithm. We say that, okay, finding a node V with no incoming edge. So the complexity is OV plus E. You have to traverse to each node and you have to see that whether there is an incoming edge or not. Right? So you need a time OV plus E. Okay, so you know that the traversal time of BFS is OV plus E. So the maximum time, find a node V with no incoming edge. It was a small graph that we saw, right? So quickly we saw, but what will be the running time? Finding a node V with no incoming edge, right? Then we are deleting V from G. Deleting V from G must be a constant time, isn't it? Once you know that this node I am going to delete, right? So what is going to be the time? As per my understanding, deleting a node should be some constant time. Once you know from where the node is there, you may have to, whatever you are working with, once you know the location, you can just change the pointers accordingly. The next is adding V to the linked list. Again, it's a simple operation, one operation, you are just adding that to the linked list. Because in linked list also, you know where you want to place it. Okay, so what is the total time here? If I say what is going to be the total time for first 3 lines, right? So what is going to be the total time if I say overall, let's say if you are saying deleting V from G, OE time we have written that to say that, how many edges are there, you are going to delete V from G. Okay, so if I ask you the question this way, what will be the total time for 1, 2, 3? Okay, let me make the question simple. So this is going to take some time, delete V from G, right? Add V to the linked list is some time. If I say what is the total time for 1, 2, 3 lines, what will be the total time?
V plus E.
O V plus E, right? Okay, you know that here there is some time. Okay, there is some time involved here, some time involved here, some time involved here. So maximum time that we are spending, if I say these 3 lines, it is going to be O V plus E. But then there is a hidden line, not hidden line. There is a hidden complexity that we need to calculate. Topological line number 4, right? Because you know that actually you are processing the nodes one by one. Find a node V with no incoming edge. You are doing with respect to that node. But this kind of operation you have to do with every node. Sorry. Yeah. At last there will be each node we are going to process, because how it will happen, because once you remove a node, you also remove the corresponding edges, right? We have seen this example. Once you remove a node, we remove the corresponding edges. So one or the other time, every node will get a turn, right? We are going to add A, B. So every node we are going to apply this. So after selecting any node, we are going to call this topological sort 1G. So what is the total complexity? So if I say, do you agree with this? So I say how many calls? The number of calls are mod of V. So what is the complexity? Overall running time. If I say this, do you agree with this? O mod of V square plus VE.
Yes.
How do we get this? We get this by mod of V. Because of this 4th line, it is mod of V multiplied by this, because you are calling this recursively. Mod of V multiplied by mod of V plus mod of E. So you get it as O mod of V square plus V dot E. Okay, so why this is important is we are going to see next that can we do better than this, right? So this is topological sort 1. Now we want to see, can we do better than this? Can we perform better than this, right? So
ma'am, can you explain the complexity again?
Yeah, sure. What we are saying is very simple. We are saying is the complexity, if you see first 3 lines, okay, this is topological sort 1G. If you try to understand the complexity for first 3 lines, okay, first line is finding a node V with no incoming edge. Okay, so you have to actually see each of the node as well as the edge, that whether a node has an incoming edge or not. Okay, so for that you have the complexity as OV plus E for line number 1. Okay, for line number 1, you have the complexity as OV plus E. Then you are saying delete V from G. You want to delete that node from G. Okay, so now what is the complexity of deleting a node from a graph? Okay, so why we have written there OE is when you delete a node from a graph, you also delete the corresponding edge. Sorry, good that you asked. I forgot to mention that. I should not say it is constant time complexity. When you delete a node from the graph, delete V from G, what are we doing? When I am deleting a node, I am also deleting the corresponding edges. So when I delete H, I also delete HA and I also delete HG, right? So I also delete the edges. So deleting a node from G is going to give you the how many number of edges are there, maximum, right? So that is what you get here. So the first line is this, second line overall you get OE, right? in the, so how I thought is, for example, you can imagine an example that you have a node, and that is a root node, for example, which is connected to all the edges. For example, we can imagine that example, that there is a root operation that has to happen. After that only all the operations takes place. So when you remove that node, so many edges you have to delete, right? So that's why, sorry, I said constant time. That will happen when you are removing a node from a linked list or something, when you already know where is the root node. Okay, so deleting a node V from G is going to take OE overall time. Then you are adding that to linked list. Okay, when you add that to linked list, it's the complexity of adding a node to the linked list, right? So overall, if I say what is the time complexity of these three lines, it is going to be, this is OE, this is OV plus E. So first three lines is going to be O mod of V plus mod of E, right? And then we are because we are taking each vertex one by one, again we are calling topological sort 1. Again the whole process starts. So the question is, how many calls we have to do for topological sort 1? Okay, every time we are processing only one node, so we have to do total number of calls as mod of V, right? So then what is the complexity? Overall running time is going to be this one. How do we get this is mod of V, because every time you have to do this operation, mod V plus curve. You select each vertex and you perform this complexity. So for each vertex, this is the complexity. So overall running time is going to be O mod of V square plus V dot E. Okay. So now the next question is, can we do better than this? Can we do better than this? This is your topological sort 1. Okay, so we can do better than this. We can do better than this, but the thing is, we can do better than this, but and we are not changing basically the algorithm. Okay, not changing the algorithm means the steps have to be similar to that what we have done. We are not changing the steps. Okay, only thing we can we change into data structure, or basically you by now you know that the key point is going to be that if I don't do this part recursively, probably I can do better, right? So if I have said that I will select each vertex one by one and we will do it like this, right? If I do, definitely there is a recursive call which is giving me this much time complexity. Okay, now it's up to, is there can be debates on what will be V dot E, will it be V square or will it be E square, or this can be consumed within V square. That's a separate question that we are not discussing now. Okay, so depending on what kind of a graph it is, how many edges are there, let's not have a debate on that discussion. That is a separate part. But the basic idea is, if I can remove something like this topological sort 1, recursive call, probably we can improve on that. Okay, so that is what has been done. Okay, so what has been done is the algorithm has been written in a different way, that is called as topological sort 2. Okay, so this is one. To find a node, so the problem with topological sort 1 is we are selecting each node one by one, and then we are doing the process, and then we are calling this topological sort recursively. Now I will show the next algorithm. That please see it once clearly, and you will understand that how it can perform better. Okay, this is the topological sort 2. Obviously we are doing the same process, we are not changing the process, right? The process is same, but there is a different way to attempt to the problem. Okay, there is no recursive call. If you see it like this, there is no recursive call. So it is not, so now it is not depending on how many vertices are there. Okay, so let us see how it works. Okay, so I will see there is one for loop, two for loop, and then there is a while loop. There is a for loop inside this while loop. So let's discuss this. I will give you 1 minute to just go through it. Just go through it and then we will discuss.
This is basically BFS only, no ma'am? Like BFS only, no ma'am?
What, Priya? I could not hear you properly.
I said it is mostly BFS only, no ma'am?
It looks like yes.
Even the topological sort, when you were explaining, yes ma'am, actually BFS is used, DFS is needed for topological sorting, and this is the exact code, and we are performing BFS using Q, NQ, DQ and stuff.
Yes. All right, so let us see. So what we are doing is, I think, UV, okay, active V, okay, yeah, it is correct, yeah. So what we are doing? First, we are picking each edge, okay. So wherever we find an edge UV, right? For any edge UV, we are saying that we have, a trace, you are tracing, you have set a vector, you are tracing that active V is going to be active V plus 1, right? So what we are trying to say here is, if there is and it's a directed graph, okay? So we are saying that whenever there is an edge UV, okay, so that means there is a direction from U to V, that means V depends on U. So that means V is an edge, right? So we are not saying, but the thing is, V can be dependent on, V is dependent on U, but V can be dependent on anything else also, right? That is why we are doing it like this, okay? So whenever we see an edge UV, that tells us that V depends on one of the activity, okay? So that is why what we do is, we make active of V equal to active of V plus 1. So this plus, so you suppose that, initially you have started for all vertices, we have started this active vector as 0. Okay, initially we allotted everything as 0. Now whenever I find an edge UV, I say that active V becomes whatever was the previous value plus 1. Why? Because it will tell me that this V depends on these many events. So if there are multiple edges for which, V depends, it will every time it will keep it as plus 1. So it will say that for a particular vector, for a particular vertex V, it depends on 2 events, it depends on 3 events, like that it will happen. Just a for loop. So you can find out what will be the complexity of this. For all edges, UV belongs to E. You are checking each of the edge. Okay, then you have another for loop. What you are doing, so for all V belongs to V. Now first you checked all the edges. Now for all vertex V belongs to V. If active V is equal to 0, active V, that line we have not written, that initially we will make active V as 0. Okay, by default active V is 0, and still if active V is 0, means this does not depend on anything. These will be the first nodes. Okay, so you are going to NQ them. As I told you the algorithm, we are going to NQ them. And then we check this, whatever you have NQ'd, while not empty S. That means there are nodes, okay, there are nodes and S is not empty. Still there are some nodes, those are there in the queue, right? When it is not empty, you are going to remove them. U is equal to DQS. Whatever item, what all you are going to put in the queue, the nodes which are not dependent on anything, or you can say which you have already processed. So that we are going to take out from the queue, okay, and then you are adding them to the linked list to say that, okay, you have already processed this. So this node is now ready to be removed. When you add this to linked list, this is ready to be removed from the graph. So corresponding edges, you are ready to be removed from the graph. So to remove the edges, this is what you are doing. For each edge, UV belongs to E, right? So you are making active V becomes active V minus 1. Because you had earlier said that it depends on 2 activities. Now you are saying that because one activity is already performed, now it depends only on, so one activity you are reducing. So active V becomes active V minus 1. So, and when you do this, you again find if active V is become 0, after you have removed that one, right? You have said that the activity on which it was dependent, and after reducing that, if you have got it as 0, means this node has become the independent node. So it has become ready to be enqueued to this S. Okay, so same thing that we did, okay, but in a different way. Earlier we were calling it recursively, now we have made 2 for loops and then we have made it as a while loop. So there is nothing like that multiplication with vertex is not going to happen, right? That is not going to happen. So that's what is, so there are these there are these 3 parts of the algorithm: first part, second part, and the third part, right? So the question is, how many times are we going to process each node, right? And how many times are we going to process each edge, right? So if you find that out, so I had a thought of an idea. It was like this. Yeah, so suppose, the same example you take, okay, just to make it more clear, you can take an example wherein you have a root node, okay, you have a root node and all the, imagine a graph as a tree, okay, you have a root node and there are multiple edges, all the, and let us say it has n children. There is a root node and it has n children, for example. Okay, so now when it comes here, okay, when it comes here, you have so the root node first is going to be put into the queue. By this, the root node will be put into the queue. Now, while not empty queue, the queue is not empty, that root node will be dequeued and it is going to be added to the linked list. Fine. Now, what happens? For each edge, UV belongs to E. All the edges were there. Okay, so what happens? Active V becomes active V minus 1. For all the edges, it was 1. Okay, it's a tree kind of a structure. Now, for all those nodes, what has happened? Active V has become 0. I'm just giving you one, borderline example. So active V has become 0. So once active V becomes 0, all of them are enqueued into your queue. They all are in queue now. Okay, so that is one example you can understand to see how many number of times you are going to process each node. Okay, so only once, you are going to process it only once. Once it has become empty, you have put it in the queue. Another example we can think of is one node and then everything is connected. That's one boundary case. Okay. Another example you can consider is that let us say there is a node which is connected with which is dependent on four nodes. Let us say another example. You have a node which is connected with 4 nodes. Okay, in that case, what will happen? Right. So suppose when those 4 nodes with which it is connected, with which it is dependent on. Okay. So one node and there are 4 incoming edge to this node. So one by one, as soon as those nodes on which it is dependent, they will be added to the queue, right? They will be dequeued, and this active V will keep on becoming one by one. Once those nodes are processed, this active V is going to become reduced one by one. So suppose it was 4 earlier. Every time you are going to remove that node, one node, it will become 3, then it will become 2, it will become 0. Okay, and finally it will become 0, right? So, but if you see, how many number of times you are going to process each node. Okay, so each node will be processed only once. Okay, so if you do this, so how many times do you process each node and how many times do you process each edge? Okay, so the complexity that you get, you can analyze it, students, seeing the algorithm, as well as sometimes it is difficult to only by seeing the algorithm. If it is difficult, we can take examples, some borderline examples wherein everything is dependent on everything. Okay, and where maybe very less number of edges, or maybe all the events are dependent on one event. Like that, if you take borderline examples, you can keep it in mind that how it is going to happen. Okay, so as you said, if you can have a similarity with BFS as well, so you get the complexity as OV plus E, right? We in both the algorithms we performed the same thing, but only the difference was where we had a recursive call at one place and here we used different loops, right? So we get the complexity as V plus E. Okay, so that is about the topological sort. Okay, so there are some nice examples in our book. Okay, in our book there are some examples, and you must see some problems. You know, so basically there are problems which we can map to. Which, you know, so basically, you know, how, so if you want to know how exactly I will know that I have to apply a topological sort. Okay, so the key answer is, you know, if there, you know, if there are events given to me and there is dependency involved, right? You get, suppose I'm talking about a new problem, you get a new algorithm design problem, and you see that there are dependencies among various events. So what I will do, I will first make a dependency graph. Dependency graph is a key term that you would have seen in compiler designing, in operating system designing. You would have created dependency graph. In computer architecture, that's a different stream, wherein there is a lot of dependency between one hardware unit and another hardware unit. In your digital design also, you would have learned that you have a multiplexer, you know, that multiplexer is getting input from these two registers and it is sending an output. So wherever you have these kind of problems, dependency related problem, you may have to apply topological sort. So topological sort will tell you that this event will, it will basically tell you the scheduling order, nothing else. Okay, so we, in our course also, we will learn, you know, something called as scheduling. We will learn, it's a nice, interesting topic, which will be new. You have not studied that. So in scheduling also, you will realize one way can be the topological sort. Okay, so what kind of questions we expect? Definitely, when you get a question, I am telling you now only, in your NSEM or anytime, you will not get a direct question that sort this using topological sort. No, probably I ask you a computer architecture problem. Why? Because that is very close to my heart. Probably one, maybe some hardware problem. But we don't have to get scared. We just have to see we are talking about the dependency or a compiler design problem. Okay, wherein we are saying that this code block, this function needs an output from these two units, then only it can work. So you have to, it should click to your mind that it's about dependency. Okay, so that those kind of problems we can take it up as topological sort. If you want to know more examples, please refer the book. Okay, that is what I can tell you, students. So now we will just start the next topic. Okay, that is what is called as connectedness. You already have an idea the meaning of connectedness. So there are two definitions of connectedness. One is applied on undirected graphs, and another one is applied on directed graphs. We have already discussed these things when we discussed the introduction to graphs. Okay, so basically what is connectedness? We are saying that given an undirected graph, we are talking only about undirected graph. For every node U belongs to V, connectedness tells you that can we reach all other nodes in the graph, right? Can we reach all other nodes in the graph? So simple answer is, all of you know, to check the connectedness, I can apply which two algorithms? I can apply DFS or BFS, right? All of you know that, right? But that we will do with the undirected graphs. Okay, so we are going to run BFS or DFS visit one pass and mark nodes as we visit them. Okay, so we can run BFS or DFS visit one pass. Okay, one pass if you apply, and mark nodes as visit them. If we visit all the nodes, return true, otherwise we return false. Okay, so what we do is we are going to run BFS or DFS visit one pass only. Okay, and mark nodes as we visit them. If we visit all the nodes, we are going to say yes, we are connected. Otherwise, we say that we are not connected. Right? So we can always try that and we can see. Okay, so what is going to be the running time? We know that it is going to be OV plus, right? Then we talk about strongly connect. I did not touch upon this, students, much, because we already know how do we check the connectedness. We can apply DFS or BFS and we can see. If we are visiting all the nodes, we can see, You mark all the nodes that, okay, we have visited, and finally you check the nodes marked the same as the number of vertices means we have visited all the nodes. When we talk about undirected graphs. Then we talk about strongly connected graph. Okay, so given a directed graph, the question is, can we reach any node V from any other node U? Now we use the term strongly connected when we talk about a directed graph. Okay, the strongly connected term is used with directed graph. Because in undirected graph, there is no direction. We call the term as connected, that is enough. But when we talk about the directed graph, we use the term strongly connected. So given a directed graph, can we reach any node V from any other node U? Right? So we can think of some ideas, students. Yeah, so how do we check that? In undirected graphs, we said I can use BFS, and as soon as I visit a node, I mark them. Or I use DFS, one pass of DFS, and as soon as I visit a node, I mark it as visited and it is done. But if it's a directed graph, then how do we check that? Can my DFS, BFS also work there? Or I have to apply some other algorithm to check whether can we reach any node V from any other node U? Because in connected graph, the story is different. In undirected graph, the story is different. If I say I can reach, if I have an edge A to B, I also know that I have an edge B to A. But in directed graph, that is not there. If I visit A to B, does not mean that I can also visit B to A. Right? That is the thing. So the question is, how do we find the connectedness? It's a directed graph. We will continue with this in tomorrow's class, students. Now the thing is, after the third semester have started, I have a class 4th hour as well. Okay, so I cannot extend this class. Otherwise, also I should not extend. 38 attendees, very bad situation. So please, Shruti, you can please tell your class that all should attend till it's not a genuine reason. Okay. So we will learn, each class is important, students. Probably we will not find so much time towards the end that, we discuss and what kind of problems might come or something. But I will always give you the idea while taking the class, right? What kind of algorithm design problems can be done using a particular algorithm. Okay, that and all I will cover during the theory class itself. All right, so I have a 4th hour class, students, for 3rd semester. And once the 1st semester starts, I will have more load. Okay. So, so what I mean to say is, it will be really, difficult to conduct extra classes, right? So earlier I had planned that I can anytime take 4th hour for you, but because you people were free, but it may not be possible. Okay, so let's utilize whatever has been given to us. Let's utilize it properly. So it's nice. All the students should attend the class. So Shruti, you will please tell your class that they should attend the class. Everybody.
Yes, ma'am, I'll tell
All
them.
right. All right. Yeah. All right, students. So thank you very much. Have a good day. So we'll continue with this tomorrow. Okay. Fine, students. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
జీవితం కలతలోకి